welcome to the Wayfaring Panda. I'm Annette. Today I'm participating in a subscriber hop for Mel from Mel W Scrapbooking. She has reached 1,000 subscribers, so we are all hopping along to help her celebrate. If you're not already a subscriber of Mel's, I encourage you to check out her channel and subscribe. She is so personable and so supportive of everyone in the scrapbooking community. And I do a lot of hops with her, and for this one she told us just to do things that make us happy and to use our favorite products. So I decided to use some ink because she likes to do mixed media, and so do I, and a lot of the hops that I participate in with her, we do mixed media, and ink is my preferred medium to use. And also she likes teal, pink, and purple, and teal is one of my favorites. So the paper I'm using on this scrapbook page is a little bit leaning to the turquoise side, but it's more blue. So the ink I'm using doesn't really include turquoise, but I like the Broken China, which is the one I'm starting with. It has kind of a tealish look. I'm also prioritizing scrapbooking my Mexican pictures from when I went to Mexico a long time ago, as well as my LA trip, which also includes Disneyland. However, I'm saving my Disneyland photos for our Disney hops and for some other sketches. So I picked some photos from Knott's Berry Farm, which I thought would be appropriate because I'm doing the photos I took of the Snoopy attractions, because I am a huge Peanuts fan, and I thought that would be appropriate for Mel's hop because her and I both do the Disney hops. It's all about the mouse hop, so this kind of goes along with that, even though these aren't Disney characters. And also we participate in the Paw Your Way Into Our Hearts, which is where we scrapbook our pets. So I know she likes dogs also, so Snoopy is a dog, so I thought that would be appropriate. For my layout, part of it is going to include a nighttime scene with some stamped images because I also like to use my stamps. And I'm trying to use my stamps that I usually use for card making in my scrapbooking, and also use products that I use in scrapbooking in my cards, so that way you get more use out of all of your products. So I'm building up a nighttime scene because I believe they called this area Camp Snoopy. If not, Snoopy and Charlie Brown does go camping in the comic strips, so I thought that would be great. I'm using Broken China, Stormy Skies, and Chipped Sapphire Distress Oxide ink to blend into a nighttime sky. And the idea is that it's not late yet, so it's still a little bit light, kind of twilight. And also they have a campfire, so that's keeping the area in the campground a little bit lighter. You'll see me dabbing off on the glass, and that's even with these dome foam blenders. I tend to go overhanded with the ink, so I'm just dabbing it off so I don't get big splotches on my paper. To get a little bit more distressed look and to make my sky look a little bit more natural, I sprinkle on some water with my fan brush, and then I dab it off with my cloth. Then I prepared to do the ground part of the campground. So I moved the tape and put on a piece of scrap paper over my sky so I don't get any brown on it. For the ground part of my scene, I'm blending on some Frayed Burlap Distress Oxide. And that one, I do get it a little bit more splotchy because I figured it's the ground, so the ground would be splotchy and it'll look more natural if it's not totally straight. Although I do dab it off quite a bit because I don't think I ever used this one before, or I haven't used it very much as one of my newer inks. I want the brown to cover all the areas where I'm not going to have any paper, so you will see me time to time holding up the paper to make sure that I have every area covered because I don't want any white space. I forgot to mention that the paper I'm using for my background is 12 by 12 mixed media paper. Now, to give more texture to my ground, the dirt, I did splatter on water with my fan brush and then dab it off with my towel, and then I splatter on some Vintage Photo Distress ink. And I'm just using Distress ink as opposed to the Oxide because I didn't have this color in Oxide. There is somewhat of a harsh line between the sky and the dirt, but I'm not going to worry about that because I will be putting some die cuts here, and so that won't be so noticeable. I'm using a stencil to add some stars to my nighttime sky because stencils are one of my favorite things to use, as well as this Glacier paste. And this is called Quicksilver Glacier paste. And I like this because a lot of the paste you use with stencils dry out really fast, but I've had this one as well as a couple other colors, the Glacier paste, for more than a couple years, and they have not dried out. Since this is supposed to be twilight, early evening, I just put the stars more at the top and along the sides so they would only be where it's darker. Another favorite product is using the Creative Memories border maker system as well as their punches. So I use this cartridge I have for a campground scene, and I used it twice. So I cut out a dark green strip as well as a brown one. I'm gluing them together and offsetting them so it'll have dimension. So it's like the brown one is kind of the shadow. Since I glued two of the strips together, it is just a little bit longer than 12 inches, so I just used my scissors to trim it off. And then I used Nuvo Deluxe glue to adhere my border to the bottom of the scrapbook layout. Now that I've finished my background, I'm going ahead and adding my scrapbook paper to the layout just with Nuvo Deluxe glue. I like to do that when I'm using media, especially like stencil paste or glacier paste, because papers don't always stick if you use tape when you have mixed media in the background. So I'll just make sure it stays on better. Now the paper I'm using is from Reminisce, and it's called The Great Outdoors, but it's really old, so I doubt it's still out there. But a lot of paper companies make hiking and camping paper, so I'm sure you can achieve the same look with a bunch of other options that are out there. I was having trouble getting glue out of that glue bottle, so I just switched. Usually what I'll do with these is I'll keep them upside down, and if they do dry out, usually only when you get towards the bottom of the bottle, when I had that problem, I'll just use a straight pen to unclog it. But I was having trouble getting it out, so I just switched glues. Another advantage of using the glue over using like double-sided tape is that you could still move your paper a little bit if you get it on crooked, whereas sometimes with the double-sided tape it's stuck and you can't move it without tearing the paper. I got this Charlie Brown die cut from a scrapbook convention, so I glue that to the bottom of the layout, as well as another piece of scrapbook paper where I'm going to put one of my photos. I did all my die cutting while I was waiting for the Glacier paste to dry, as well as mounting my photos. So the two photos that I have on the right hand side, I mounted on some dark red paper, and the one that I have here on the left hand side, I mounted on some light blue paper. And I just attached them to my layout with some mounting squares, or sometimes they're called photo squares. Now, these attractions I didn't really go on. The one is just some banners that I saw with Linus and Sally Brown, and then the one over above Charlie Brown was a little kid's ride, but I had to take picture of the Red Baron, even though I didn't ride that. And then the one on the top is where they had a Snoopy gift shop, which is where I purchased the backpack and sunglass holder that you see me with on the bottom picture. I also purchased this Snoopy die cut title from the same place I got the Charlie Brown one, so I'm going to glue that to the top of my page. I cut out some cardstock with some die cuts from Fawn, and this is from their Build a Campsite die cut set. I cut out some tent elements as well as some pine trees and grass and fire, and I'm gluing those elements together, and then I glue them to the page. I used my stamps and dies from CraftStash. It's a peanut set to stamp and cut out a Charlie Brown and Snoopy, and then colored them with Copic markers. Although I mostly colored Charlie Brown, Snoopy just has a little bit of gray for shading. Then I arranged those all on there, as well as the little elements that I cut out for the camp scene, just to give everything dimension and glue them all down. I'll put a list of all the products that I'm using in the description below. Some of these will be affiliate links. They don't cost you anything extra to use, but I do get a small commission from any sales that the links generate, and that helps support my channel. Now, some of the products I've used are older, and of course, like the die cuts, I'm not sure where I got those. So those may not be available. And also with the Snoopy and Charlie Brown stamps, I know the website where I got them no longer exists, so I don't know if they're available here in the United States. I don't think I've ever used my dies and stamps to build a scene like this on my scrapbook pages, especially combining it with scrapbook paper and other typical scrapbook elements, but I really liked how it turned out, so I guess I'm going to have to do this again. I don't know why this is, but on the Snoopy die cut title, the person who made these didn't put any eyes or nose, but they did on Charlie Brown, so I didn't really like that. So I got a white gel pen at the end of the video and added some eyes and nose. And I thought it looked better that way. As I mentioned earlier, this is part of a YouTube hop to help celebrate Mel W's Scrapbooking's 1,000 subscribers. So that is going to be on a playlist. So all you have to do is click the link to the playlist and you'll be able to view all the videos of everyone helping her celebrate. So please hop along. You'll get a lot of inspiration, and especially with being able to use just whatever things you like, I'm sure there'll be a lot of variety for inspiration and a lot of great ideas. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like. And if you're not already a subscriber, I'd really appreciate if you can subscribe to my channel. Thank you and have a wonderful day.